Hi, everybody, and welcome to our latest round of GAA predictions. I'm Lewis, and this is Jack from the Betting Island team. This weekend, we're going to be looking at some of the upcoming hurling fixtures in the Leinster and Munster provinces. Last weekend left several outcomes still to be determined, so there's a great deal to play for. Jack, I don't know about you, but I think the standout game is in Leinster, and it's Dublin versus Galway.
Yeah, I'd agree. This seems like the game with nearly the most jeopardy involved. Both sides still have a chance to reach the Leinster final. They've had strong performances, and both of them just came unstuck against Kilkenny, who've been a class above the pair of them. But they both have a chance to get to the Leinster final. I think it could be the tightest game out of the weekend. It's a hard one to call.
I totally agree. Obviously, Dublin, I think we're on the cusp of qualifying, but they really had a setback last weekend against Kilkenny. Quite a big defeat, surprisingly in some ways. But they're still a team improving, I think. And I think Galway, a bit more momentum. Obviously lost their first game, but have now won 3 on the spin. Built some momentum with that against Antrim last time out of a huge win. So I think it's an incredibly tight game. It's going to be very tense, but for my money, I think Galway just have the edge.
Yeah, I think it'll just be Galway. Against Antrim now, they rested quite a few players, probably in preparation for this game.
Yeah.
And we still managed to put up a massive score. So when they have some of the other players back, I think they'll get the victory. But it's going to be a tight one.
It will be a tight one. I think the money line odds are interesting. I think what struck me was that you can back Galway with a margin of 1 to 3 points at a price of 4.75 for Boy Sports. I think that offers quite a lot of value because, as you said, there's so much to play for. It's going to be an incredibly tight match.
Yeah, that's a good bet, I think. Yeah, because with what's on the line, it's hard to see one team maybe gain control, and they'll probably share a lot of points. Maybe there'll be a few goals in it as well. So 1 to 3 points is probably a good bet if you're looking for something with a bit better odds than just a Galway win.
Yeah, you're right about the goals too. I think they struck 19 between them in that game, so I think it could be quite high scoring and close. Obviously the Dubs are at home, but yeah, I think if you were going to back someone to win outright, you go Galway. But definitely look at the winning margin betting because it's likely to be a close one.
Yeah, and if we continue with the Leinster Championship, we've got a game at the complete opposite end of the treble with Offaly and Antrim. Both sides have lost all their games to this point in sort of different ways. Offaly have lost a couple of tight ones, whereas Antrim have lost comfortably in most games they've played. But this game is an interesting one for the complete opposite reason that the Dublin and Galway one is, with the relegation on the line.
I agree. It's such an interesting game in some ways. Obviously, I think they've both lost all 4. But like you say, Offaly have been more competitive. A couple of their defeats have only been by 3 points. Whereas Antrim, I think they've lost by 72 points in total across the matches, which is just incredible. They've really struggled defensively. So on paper, it looks like one of those games where it's difficult to call, but I think Offaly should win. And then their campaign will win. They'll be keen to. I think they've got home advantage as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big factor, the home advantage. Antrim have when Antrim have been playing at home this year, they seem to start well and put teams under pressure and then fall to a defeat. But when they're away from home, they seem to struggle right from the off. So I think home advantage will be key for Offaly, and I think they'll get the victory in this one. I think their odds are around 1.36 with Boyle Sports. I'm not sure if you'd want to include a handicap with it being such a tight game between two teams who are struggling for a victory, so there mightn't be a strong win either side.
I tend to agree, but I did check the handicap markets because it is an interesting one, like you say. Because Offaly do seem to have a slight advantage and they have performed much better than Antrim. You can back them at around -5 points, odds of 1.91 with Boyle Sports. So I'd probably say if you wanted to try and look or create a bit of extra value, that's not a bad bet. 5 points isn't a huge margin, and Offaly, I just think with home advantage, the fact that they are a clearly superior team, I think it could be one of those weekends where I don't think it'll be a huge win, but 5 points seems reasonable, so it might be a decent bet this weekend.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because they met in the league earlier. I think Offaly won comfortably enough, but this is the championship now. It's a different thing, and we're not on the line. Maybe 5 points seems reasonable. I think that'll be the margin of victory.
I think it's worth consideration. Obviously, the other final match in Leinster it's similar in some ways. On paper, there isn't a huge lot to play for, but obviously Kilkenny will want to maintain their perfect record. They'll also want momentum ahead of the final, having won all 4 of their games. And they've really been impressive. I think they beat both Galway and Dublin. The only question for this game, because again on paper it looks like an easy one to predict, but is rotation perhaps?
I was just going to say the same thing here. Do the rest players for the final been already through? Yeah, they want to maintain the sharpness, but I think giving players a rest is what they should do in this game. And Wexford need the win. They need to get help from Dublin losing as well, and by a considerable margin with the score difference. But Wexford need the win, so they'll come out hot and their home advantage. Will Kilkenny going down away to Wexford be too bothered about the result? I expect to rest a few players to be ready for the Leinster final. So I think if you were going for a sort of outsider back this weekend, I would say Wexford to win, although Kilkenny, their second team, if they do make changes, will be really strong as well. So it'll be hard either way for Wexford.
I think it's a tough one because I think if Kilkenny rest players, like you say, they've got strength in depth in attack, they could probably rest say Owen Cody or TJ, one of them, and then maybe rotate and bring one on. So I think it's one of those, but they have enough quality and depth, I think, to still be a threat. The problem is, if you're backing Kilkenny, you're looking at around a price of 1.36 with Boyle Sports, which isn't great given that they may rest some players.
Yeah.
But I tend to agree with you. If you were going to bet on this, you might back Kilkenny at that price. But if you were looking for maybe a potential surprise result this weekend, you might go for Wexford.
Yeah, I'd agree. So we'll move on to the Munster Championship now. We'll start probably with one of the games that's sort of a dead rubber game, which is Limerick and Clare. Limerick are already through to the final. Clare are already eliminated, which is kind of a big surprise as they won the All-Ireland last year. But Limerick are kind of in the same boat as Kilkenny. Will they rest players for this game or will they not? Although they'll probably have 2 players for each position that can come in and still show the quality. So I'm kind of expecting Limerick to get enough to win this game, because I don't think Clare will be too pushed because they have nothing to play for either.
Yeah, I agree. I think the difference between this and say the Kilkenny game is that Clare don't have anything really to play for. There's pride, but like you said, the drop off from being All Ireland winners to being where they are now is been stark. I think they're clearly struggling in all parts really. I think Limerick are strong. Obviously they were really impressive against Dublin last time out. Aaron Gallane's performed well, especially in that win against Cork. So I think they are clearly going to be the favourites. Also, I think their defence is really good, quite tight. Only conceded 3 goals in the provincials so far. I can't see Clare. That they were good on the opening day against Cork. It was a really plucky draw, but since then in defeats have been disappointing. Nothing to play for. I can't see past a Limerick win here.
Yeah, Clare have been very disappointing. I think people kind of were expecting that Cork would be the favourites for both the Munster and the All-Ireland. But Limerick kind of showed what their quality was about last week, and they probably made themselves favourites again now in everyone's eyes. So they'll want to continue this momentum into the Munster final after this. Yeah, and to show a statement by beating the All-Ireland champions, even if they have been poor enough, will be exactly what Limerick need, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like you say, the strength in depth they have is really strong. So I think even if they rotate, I still think they're going to win. The only problem is with rotation, as we've touched on, it does affect the betting markets a little bit. So normally you might look at a handicap in this type of game, but I don't know how strong you can go given that they may leave players out. Obviously they want to maintain momentum, but they do have strength. The team may be disrupted, so it might be one where just look at the money line. But I'm again, be wary of handicaps with that one, I'd say.
Yeah, and the final game of the weekend, Cork and Waterford has a lot on the line. One of these sides will be eliminated from the championship, and on Cork's side, they could reach the Munster final if they get to it. It's a hard one to call.
Oh, it's a huge game, but it is tough. Cork as well, they'll still be reeling from that defeat against Limerick. They 16 points. They really struggled, and it's the same thing with Cork. They seem to have a lot of firepower, but they do struggle defensively. And I think they've shipped 6 goals so far. Waterford have got Stephen Bennett in attack, who has been in form and done really well. And obviously, like you say, both teams have got something to play for. So I think with this game, what I noticed though is that I think it's got the potential to be really high scoring.
Yeah.
So if you if you look at the markets, if you don't fancy picking a winner, which is quite tough, as you said, Boyle Sports are offering the over-under on 54.5 points. So it might be worth looking at an over at 1.80. It's clear one team starts strong and there's some early points. We could see a bit of a seesaw battle and we could see quite a lot of goals and points scored.
Yeah, I'd agree. Because as you said there, both sides have a lot on the line. Cork, a win for Cork puts them in the Munster final. A win for Waterford keeps them in the championship and eliminates Cork. So it could be a tense battle. So both sides will just be, I think, hopefully they'll go home. I kind of feel bad for Tipperary this weekend that they're not playing. They kind of have to watch this game, knowing that if Cork win, they won't be in the Munster final. But if Waterford win, then Tipperary will be in the Munster final. So it's kind of a difficult one for them. But it should be an exciting game, as you said. I think there'll be a lot of goals. There's lots of goals in Waterford's team, as we've seen this year, and Cork have put in quite a few goals as well, although they were disappointed last week. They'll definitely want to respond, and I think the over-under is the marker to go with. But if I had to pick a team to win, I think Cork would just slightly edge it.
Oh, I totally agree. I tend to lean towards Cork. I just think their attack's so good, and I think in games like this, if it does become a shootout where both teams are going through it, I just think you'd often back Cork in that instance. But it should be a really, really interesting game. It's probably the one to watch this weekend.
Yeah.
If you don't watch Galway Dublin, that is, it's certainly going to be an interesting one.
So before we finish up, if we were to just discuss, what would be sort of your banker tip for the weekend if you had to give someone a tip that you think will definitely sort of come through?
It's so tough this weekend because there's so many tough to call matches. One bet that I keep coming back to, and I the Offaly against Antrim with a -5 points handicap. It's about margins, obviously, but I think a lot of the times when you see these handicaps are like -7 points, that seems a bit -5. Given how poor Antrim have been, and I think confidence is so low, I just think that's not a bad bet, especially at 1.91. I see Offaly winning comfortably. I think they're in a different state of mind, having been competitive, and I think I really want to enter their campaign with a win, whereas I think Amber probably just want the campaign over with. So I think if you're looking to look for a bet week,
maybe then an outsider for the weekend, I'm thinking Wexford, only because they have something to play for and Kilkenny don't, but it'll be the strength that Kilkenny have. I don't know what you think for an outsider for the weekend.
I tend to agree. I think the problem with it is that if you look at the games, there's probably not many where there's an outsider. If you look at Dublin Galway, it's keenly matched. I think Offaly Antrim, for different reasons, is keenly matched, and even Cork Waterford. So I think the only other match where there could be a real surprise winner is Clare, but I don't see that happening. So yeah, I think out of the games this weekend, I would definitely say if you're looking for an outside bet and you want to put your money on a team who aren't particularly fancied, then definitely back Wexford against Kilkenny.
Those are our predictions. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it and are looking forward to a huge weekend of hurling. We'll make sure to like and comment and maybe leave a tip below of what you think would happen this weekend. And as usual, check out all our betting insights at bettingireland.ie. Lewis, thanks very much for the chat. This was great fun.
Yep, thanks, Jack. I can't wait to do it again.
See you.
Take care.